and welcome to the Cricket Nerds podcast. I'm James.
I'm Benji.
I'm Zach.
Very smooth. All right, so today we're going to be talking about our IPL predictions. So where we think each team's going to be and what we think of the state of those teams. So we're going to go in alphabetical order. So the first question is, how do we think, or what do we think of CSK?
CSK,
Benji?
my beloved CSK. So CSK have got quite a good mix, quite a good setup, I think personally. Experienced is how I would describe them. Some would say old, I would say experienced. I think we had quite a good draft in the likes of picking up Moeen, and I think also Pujara. And then recently, with Josh Hazlewood dropping out of the IPL, we've now also picked up Jason Behrendorff. So having that extra sort of right arm pace, I'm excited to see how that goes. We've got the likes of Sam Curran coming in as youth with the likes of Gaikwad too. I think those two could be really good potential. I think it took a bit too long last season for CSK to sort of go into their stride. They, didn't use Sam Curran up the order or play Gaikwad until far too late, in my opinion. But yeah, I think CSK could do well. Do I think they'll get a playoff spot? No. I think we've got a bit too much age. The fielding was poor last year. And we're also missing a real heavy-hitting top order batsman. Do I think there's promise though? Do I think we could be a dark horse? Probably yes.
Well, they're in that rebuilding phase, aren't they? Like they've got those, they've got top order batsmen who are, like you said, they're experienced. They've got people like Ambati Rayudu, Pujara, Duplessis. The issue they've got is that superstar. I'm going to strike at 180 throughout the whole tournament at the top of the order. Like replacing Shane Watson with Pujara doesn't necessarily help things.
It doesn't really make sense, does it?
No, but yeah, they'll do okay. I don't think they're going to make the top four, but yeah, I think they've got the side and they've learned from last year to show some promise.
I would say they're old.
They're old, yeah.
CSK are old, and they've got so many middle order batsmen that I don't know. They're not looking too good at the top. But yeah, I think the main thing is that they're a bit long in the tooth, and I don't think they made enough changes. I don't think they did what they needed to do at the auctions, particularly.
If they give their young players the chance, that's the thing that will help. Dhoni isn't the finisher he once was, and that's difficult. Jadeja, wasn't he injured in 2020?
Yeah, he's been injured for a long time. If he comes back and he's the Jadeja that won them a couple of games last time, then who knows? But as far as the CSK that we currently are preparing to see, I'm not overly hopeful.
No.
What are your thoughts on DC?
The Delhi.
Delhi.
I think they're a good team. They've got some really good bowlers, especially in Rabada and Norkia. That is their standout. That's their strength, isn't it? Their fast bowling. And also spinners, Ashwin, Axel Patel, on those Indian pitches. So I think their bowling is definitely their strength. Is their batting where lacking Shreyas Iyer they might have a few issues there.
What do we also think about the fact that they're not going to have Norkia or Rabada for the start of the tournament? I think they're missing a couple of games, aren't they, at the start? I think they rely quite heavily on that fast bowling attack. I mean, they also have the likes of Marcus Stoinis and Chris Wokes in there as well. Whether they'll get too much play, I don't know. And the big thing for Delhi as well is now Rishabh has had to come in as their captain for Shreyas Iyer, and we've got good old smudgy Steve Smith in there as well. What dynamic is Steve Smith going to bring to to Delhi too. How's he going to fit into that setup?
Yeah, I think it's a weird one. You've got 3 potential captains at DC now.
Yeah.
Because you've got Steve Smith, you've got Ajinkya Rahane, and you've got Ravi Ashwin, all of whom have captained sides before. And then it's the 23-year-old Rishabh Pant, who is now been given the burden of captaincy. So it's definitely interesting. I am also interested to see what kind of balance it brings, having Steve Smith in. I think at the auction, it was bizarre that they bought him. It was bizarre that they bought Tom Curran. But, we've got to see. I think they needed a finisher. Shimron Hetmeyer has been pretty ropey the last couple of years. So we'll have to see how they do. It'll be interesting, but I still think they're going to do well.
Got Sam Billings. He could. I guess it would be either him or Shimron Hetmeyer, won't it, for that finishing slot? They won't play them both just because of the overseas. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go, especially with Rishabh Pant as captain, because he's not like Shreyas Iyer wasn't, I would say, Delhi's star batsman. I'd say that is Pant, and he's also not a wicket keeper. So being wicket keeper, star batsman, and captain,
it's a lot.
He's young, like he's younger than me.
It's a lot of responsibility for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So what do we think about KKR then? I'm happy to kick this off. I think they're very reliant on their headline players. They've got people like Sunil Narine, Andre Russell, Owen Morgan, Shakib Al Hassan, Lockie Ferguson. They've got some exciting players, but they've got a lot of old players, big names that I think are a bit over the hill. I think Andre Russell isn't going to have another season like he did in 2018. And Sunil Narine, just looking at his performance over the last year, he's been a little bit ropey, to say the least. That's my thought on KKR. I'm not excited by them.
I agree. Although I think they have the potential to do well, they're a bit like Chennai Super Kings. They've kind of been using the same players over a number of years, and they're getting to that stage where they need to bring in some new players like Sunil Narine. I think if he went into the auction right now, he wouldn't be picked up. But I think because he's been there for so long, he's staying there. I don't think his bowling's as good since he's had the change in his action. His batting, I don't think he's going to come in and hit 50 off 12 balls like he has done in the past. But I do think they have some really good players like Shakib Al Hassan. He'll make a massive difference. He's been at the franchise before. He knows how they play. Dinesh Karthik, if he finds form, can be dangerous. But it's that top order batting is the thing that is going to count. Is Shubman Gill going to play the role that he's there for? Is he going to get support from players like Nitish Rana? That's the question for me with them.
I'm quite excited to see a couple of things for KKR. I want to see how Ben Cutting fits into that setup. I think he's a real good prospect. He's a real good pickup. Can come in and sort of fill in that all rounder role if Ryan is sort of being shifted on. And also you can't ever rule out Pat Cummins too. He's just such a quality player, such a quality bowler. I think it's actually a bit of a shame that Pat Cummins is stuck at KKR, to be honest. You
want to Chennai? Give it 10 years and he'll be at Chennai.
Yeah, he'll just about fall into the right age bracket then, won't he?
The spinners are really good. Harbjan Singh, Chakravarti, Narine, Shakib.
Do we think Kolkata are going to win though?
No, I don't think so.
Speaking of, are they going to win? Mumbai Indians.
Yes.
What else do we need to say about Mumbai Indians? They're just that complete, well-rounded squad. I'm not sure that there's not really one weak link in that team. Normally, you can go round any IPL team and be like, oh, they're a bit weak in this area, but they have every aspect of the game covered. They bat down to their 12th man, and they bat well down to their 12th man, Like it's just such a strong setup. Like Hardik Pandya coming in at 6 or 7. Well, possibly.
That's Krunel. Hardik's more like 4 or 5.
Hard will be like 4 or 5, then Pollard, then Krunel. But that as like a 5, 6, 7 is such an insane batting lineup. I think they have to be favourites coming into the tournament. And I think the other thing about Mumbai is they've got a replacement for nearly every single role. So if Trent Bolt isn't firing, then Jasprit Bumrah will probably pick up the slack, and if De Kock isn't really hitting it off, then there's Chris Lynn to come in. It's just such a good side that they've managed to develop and a system that they've built up, and I think they're at their peak at the minute. And then Rohit Sharma just heading that up is just a fantastic for them, isn't it?
I absolutely agree with you. I think they've got everyone knows exactly what they're doing. They fit exactly into their roles, and I think the only question we could possibly pick out was about spin. They don't really have many spinners. They've got Rahul Chahar. Do they have anyone else?
Piyush Chawla,
who's like 90 now. I think really they don't need it. I think unless we get to day 2 of a test match in India, the spinners aren't going to be that useful in this tournament in comparison to the rest of the Mumbai Indians squad.
Well, Krunal Pandya's also their spinner. I think that's where they could have that's the slightest weakness is their spinners might get a bit of tap in the middle. The only way that they can be beaten, like last year, 5 games they lost. 2 of those were super overs. The other 3 games they were batting first. So the other team were able to chase it down. So they're going to be a very difficult team to beat. I think they're just strong in so many areas. It's hard to break down. Oh yeah, we could get them here. Like and they've been like that for a number of years now. There's a game of, I think it might have been 2018, 2017, where they're playing Royal Challengers, and they must have been like 10 for 4 or something like that, chasing 130 to win. And then Kyron Pollard was still coming in with Krunal Pandya, and they got a 100 partnership and won the game. Yeah. Like most teams would be down and out at that stage, but they just have that ability to just come back from any situation.
Absolutely. Right then, on to the real winners, I think. Punjab Kings. What do we think about Punjab Kings? You know what? I'm going to kick off Punjab Kings. I think from this auction, we've done absolutely brilliantly. We've managed to fill so many holes with buying Jai Richardson, Riley Meredith, just really quick, really good variations in them. We've got some nice Indian talent coming through with Shahrukh Khan, who's described by Anil Kumble as the new Kyron Pollard, which quite a statement. And he definitely comes out with intent. It was very clear from the Mushtaq Ali Syed Trophy. I think that's what it's called. He was batting at some insane strike rate. I think he was going out after about 12 balls faced on average, but he was making them count. And that's exactly what Punjab need. They need a finisher. I'd like to see a couple of players get sort of a more of a chance this year, such as Simran Singh. He was very young when we first bought him. I think he was only 18. Now he's 20, and he's doing well in the domestic. So it would be really good to see him do well. Ishan Perel as well. We've had him for a long time, and I think in the Mushtaq Ali Trophy, he's got an average of about 8 with his bowling, which is insane. So it'd be really good to see them step up and be counted. But overall, I've got quite high hopes for Punjab.
Yeah, I think Punjab have an obvious strength, which is their top order batting. Yeah. Rahul Agarwal, Gale, Malan, Pooran in the middle order. They've got very strong batting. The issue will be their bowling and their death bowling. Mohammed Shami, proven, can do a job. But then Jai Richardson and Riley Meredith, have they really played much in India? Are they going to struggle? I know they're fast, but Mark Wood's played in the IPL before and been hit all over the place, and he's fast. I just don't see their bowling really holding up, especially with the Indian bowlers. They've got a few, like Arshdeep Singh, but I don't see them really being able to keep them.
In terms of their bowling attack, the other big name that we've not talked about is Chris Jordan, who, you know, at one point was one of the best T20 bowlers in the world. I think he's struggling at the minute. He struggled to find form in the T20 series, England versus
India.
England versus India. I think he took 2 wickets in the whole series, 2 or 3 wickets in the whole series. I think that was in the third game. The final game, he got hit for over 50 runs. So I mean, it really wasn't a fantastic series for Chris Jordan. So he's coming off a little bit of low form. But he's always a great player to have around the setup. He can do some insane, you know, catches in the field, and he's got that brilliant sort of T20 head in him as well. Dal Malan, we've not really talked about him in much detail. He's a player that sort of needs to come in, you know, number 3 during the power play, and get himself in before he tees off. But he's just got that level of consistency, and I think he's a ridiculously good pickup for Punjab, especially for the price that they paid for him. First time he batted in India was in the T20 series. He got a couple of good scores. Didn't set the world on fire. But I think now in this IPL he's got a real chance to sort of make his mark as the best T20 batsman in the world. He is by the rankings, but he's got a chance to really cement it.
Yeah, the IPL is where you make your case, really. It is the platform to do so.
Absolutely agree. Right, so next up, Rajasthan Royals. I think we actually, all 3 of us have quite different, or maybe me and Zach are quite similar in our views on Rajasthan.
Yeah. So shall I go then, and then you two can tell me why I'm wrong. I can't. So Ben Stokes and Josh Butler, I think they are just 2 players that bring any team alive. I think they're going to struggle without having Jofra Archer. Yes, I get that. But I think their star players are of just that level of quality, that, you know, there's if those 2 get off, they can win any game. If Josh Butler is there in the 20th over, no matter what team he's playing for, you've won that game. You've got the likes of Liam Livingstone in there as well, who's had a fantastic big bash and scored a few runs in the one-day series. And David Miller, South African all-rounder, again, class player, and he brings that level of experience to the team as well. Chris Morris, most expensive player. It will be exciting to see, you know, what he can do. See if he can justify that, you know, 16 crore or whatever it was price tag. And then I think just one last note on Rajasthan is let's see how they're going to cope with this new captain setup. So Sanju Samson coming in to replace Steve Smith as captain. Now I think Sanju played really well last year. I think he scored a good amount of runs, and when he was hitting off, he did really well. So I mean, personally, I can see Rajasthan doing quite well, providing they don't have that top order collapse. I know you guys think a bit differently.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I actually don't think Rajasthan are going to do very well. I think Jofra Archer, his main nemesis in his career so far has been a fish tank. He's now having to have an operation, so he's going to be out of the IPL, possibly the whole thing. Which really, he was the MVP. He held Rajasthan together last year. I don't think Rajasthan have got the Indian talent, the young Indian players that are going to stand up and be counted. I think you can look at the top order and see, as an England fan, Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer and be like, that's a brilliant team, Liam Livingstone. But actually, they really don't have the depth there. And I think it's really going to show with the absence of Archer, taking 3 wickets in the power play. I don't think they're going to find this IPL very easy at all.
I think the way you look at the IPL is if you win out of your 14 games, you need to win at least 7 to stand a chance of getting through to the top 4, especially if it's close. And so that means they're big money players being outstanding in 7 out of 14 games, which is doable. But you need a game of cricket isn't won with 4 or 5 players. Like Mumbai have been strong because they bat through 1 to 11. Their bowling attack's really strong. They've got the Indian players who are going to do well, whereas Rajasthan don't have that. They're too reliant on their overseas.
But you can't forget on who those overseas players are.
You can't.
We're talking Joss Buttler, Ben Stokes, Jofra Archer.
Well, we're not talking Jofra Archer anymore.
Well, realistically, I think. Well, I don't know. We're not sure how bad that injury is, but I can definitely see Archer getting some IPL time.
Why don't we talk about a proper team?
All right, then. Go on. You can kick us off on RCB.
We're trying to Bangalore. I've supported them since day one, so I'm going to be a bit biased. But I do think that this could be the year which we see Virat Kohli lifting that IPL trophy. That the team have frustrated me for so long because I just think that they get their balance wrong. I think that they always chop and change their 11. Even when they have the players which could provide a good balance, I don't think they necessarily go about it the right way. And for me, they've come out and they've said, right, Virat Kohli, he's opening the batting. Devdutt Padikkal, he proved himself last season. He's going to be at the top of the order most of the way through. They've got AB de Villiers and Maxwell in the middle order. They've got Dan Christian, who I believe is Benji's favourite player.
Dan Christian.
And so in terms of their batting, I think they've got a formula which will work. I think they've got something which will give freedom to the likes of AB de Villiers and Maxwell to really express themselves and go all out. The issue is their death bowling, because they've got the spinners, they've got middle over bowling for days. It's that death bowling. Are they going to be able to defend when they're not chasing?
Yeah, I think with RCB this year, what they've done well is they've done the draft well. I think Glenn Maxwell fits into that RCB setup a lot better than he ever did at Punjab Kings. Not being that star player, I think, will be a real bonus and a benefit and will work well for Glenn Maxwell. And I can't not talk about Dan Christian. Like, when it comes to T20, the man can do no wrong. Like his last 2 T20 tournaments, he's won with Notts and with the Sydney Sixers. I mean, the man's an absolute tank. He can do everything. He can bat. He can bowl. He can bowl death overs if he needs to, and he can bowl those middle overs. Take the pace off. Go for 4 or 5 and over. I think RCB have a real chance this year. Do I think that it will be the year that Kohli finally, gets gold at the IPL trophy? I don't know. I don't think so. But it's they're definitely an exciting team. They're also missing a little. Go on, James.
I can see that, and I think Dan Christian at 38 years old would fit perfectly into the CSK side. I think that Royal Challengers, like you said, they're death bowling. They've made these picks. They've paid out the nose for Kyle Jamieson, who since has had a pretty shocking tour of Australia, and he doesn't bowl in the death. He bowls in the power play. So he's quite a limited player. I think I agree. Glenn Maxwell could be a brilliant purchase. As a Kings 11 fan, I was hurt that he didn't get a single six the entire tournament. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he does better for you. But yeah, I think the problem that RCB are going to face for me, the biggest problem, is that they sold almost all of their players last year and bought back nowhere near as many. So they don't actually have that squad depth. So in the case of an injury, they could find themselves in some hot water.
I guess it depends where the injury is, because AB de Villiers is unlikely to get injured. And if he does, then that gives an opportunity for someone like Finn Allen, exciting New Zealand batsman, to come in. They've also got, well, who else could get injured? Maxwell probably wouldn't get injured.
You can never predict these.
If they're, you can't predict injuries, but if their fast bowlers get injured, they've got Kane Richardson, Kyle Jamieson, and Daniel Sams, who can all fill that fast bowling role. And also, if you look at Kane Richardson's recent 2020 record, he's actually not doing too bad bowling at the death. So I think they have some bases covered. It's whether they pick the right 11.
I have seen a rumour that Daniel Sams has unfortunately contracted COVID, so he might be out for a few games. But hopefully, you won't need him until he makes a full recovery. So that'd be good. So I think finally we've got Sunrisers Hyderabad. I'm going to kick this off and say I think they've got an incredible team. I think they've got some of the best batsmen around. I can't stand David Warner, but he is brilliant.
Yeah.
And looking at their bowlers with Natarajan, Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Rashid Khan, that's 12 overs that are locked up for them every single game. So then they just need to find the final 8 overs and sort of muster their way through them.
Well, that's like what, David Warner? No, not David Warner. Jason Holder.
Yeah, David Warner's going to bowl.
He's bowled before in the IPL, I believe.
I want David Warner to get clotted around by MS Dhoni if he was bowling.
I'm just looking at some of their bowlers who have done well for them. They've got Khalil Ahmed, who I think played quite a lot when Bhuvneshwar Kumar was injured a few seasons ago, and he stepped in. They've got Basil Tampi, Sandeep Sharma, Shahbaz Nadeem, Siddharth Kaur. They've got some pretty good Indian bowlers. I think they are a team to watch, for a team to really take on Mumbai. I think they have potential. It's just their batting, isn't it, really?
It is. That seems to be the only thing that they're missing. Like, having a team where you have the potential to play Warner, Bairstow, Roy and Williamson as your top 4. I mean, that will never happen, but having that as a potential to play is ridiculous. Jason Roy replacing Mitchell Marsh, questionable, but I think that they've all got runs in them.
Let's forget they have signed the huge player of Kedar Yadav.
Kedar Yadav as well, yeah.
Lord of success.
Of 95 in the death last year. So,
they do have Trevor Bayliss as head coach, right?
Yeah, that was another thing that's interesting, like seeing what different angle Trevor Bayliss will bring to them. And I think one last shout out is Menash Pandy. I think that man is just so consistent at always getting some runs. I think I had him in my IPL team last year. I think you did too, Zach. But you also had David Warner, so your opinion doesn't count. But we had Menash Pandy, and he's just always consistent in being able to score something. The worry for Sunrisers is still, if their top order doesn't fire off and they have a collapse, where are the runs going to come from? And that's primarily going to probably be on the likes of Jason Holder and his shoulders instead. I think, with the exception of Mumbai, they've got the strongest bowling attack in the tournament. Bhuvneshwar Kumar and Natarajan, as we've said, they do the job they need to do better than most people. So yeah, it'll be an interesting tournament, and I think you're right. I think they're real ones who are up there to challenge Mumbai.
So, really quickly, Zach, what are your IPL predictions? What's going to be the standings after the group stages?
So I think the four who I think will qualify for the playoffs are going to be Mumbai, obviously, and Sunrisers. I think they'll be 1-2 on the table. I then think, despite Delhi not having Rabada and Norkia at the start, I think when they come back, they'll have a bit of a change and will do really well and come either third or fourth. And then I'm pinning my hopes on Royal Challengers clinching that fourth spot. So yeah, that's my predictions for the top four.
Benji?
Top four, I think, Mumbai number 1, Sunrisers number 2 for all the reasons that we've talked about. I think third place, very unpopular opinion, but I think Rajasthan are going to do okay. I think they've got the potential if their star players can play well, that they can perform. That's what I think. Realistically, it's probably going to be someone like Delhi, but I think Rajasthan. And then fourth place, I can see RCB sneaking in there with a playoff spot. The Dan Christian influence. Need I say more?
Don't really.
All right. Well, my top four: Mumbai Sunrisers, very boring but very likely. I've got Delhi Capitals in at 3. I think as long as they get their fast bowlers pretty early on in the competition, they don't lose too many games. I think they've just got such a strong lineup. And if Rishabh Pant is in the same form as he has been, I think they could absolutely storm through. And then in fourth place, I've got, of course, Punjab Kings.
Oi.
What a lineup they've got. All right then. Orange cap. What are we saying?
Orange cap. Go on.
I'm going with Virat Kohli. Yeah.
Is that just hopeful?
I just think he's got it in him. He's opening the batting. That's when he's done best in the IPL. I think he's got it in him to have another great tournament.
Yeah, I think in a similar vein to that, but I think it's going to be Rohit Sharma, just leading Mumbai with that sort of captain's knock mentality. I think Sharma's got runs in him all the way through the season, and especially if he does well, Mumbai will win the game. So yeah, I can see him scoring big this season.
I've gone for an unpopular opinion with myself. I can't stand the fact that I'm saying this, but David Warner, I think if he plays every game, doesn't get injured or anything, I think he's too good to, and he's won the Orange Cap a few times before, I think. So
he's a consistent 600 plus runs every season sort of player, isn't he?
Yeah. All right, Purple Cap. What are we saying? I'm going to say Jasprit Bumrah for Mumbai.
Either Jasprit or Rashid Khan for me.
Yeah, both strong shouts. I think the third one to throw into that hat is Trent Bolt. Again, Mumbai, classic, fantastic bowler. Little dark horse in there is Pat Cummins, but again, not too sure how he's going to do. But no, I think Trent Bolt for sure for Purple Cup.
All right, biggest six hitter. I've said Ishan Kishan. I think he's going to get it 2 years in a row.
I want to say Chris Gale.
So do I.
I want to say Chris Gale, but I think if it's going to be someone from Punjab, then it would be Pooran. But I also think Hardik Pandya could have a shot at most sixes.
Yeah, I mean, my heart wants to say Dan Christian, but I don't think he'll be batting enough to actually have that accolade. So I think it's going to be Kieran Pollard. I mean, he just tonks it, doesn't he? He comes in, tonks it around. 6 sixes against Sri Lanka. We can't forget that for the West Indies recently. I think he could have a really good year once again.
All right, then finally, the moment that everyone's been waiting for. Who's going to win the Paytm Fair Play Award? I've said the most bland team I can think of, which is KKR. I think Owen Morgan is just nice and Irish. And the rest of the team just going to be kind of a bit meh, a bit fair play. Yeah, not very exciting.
I think I'm going to go with the old boys, CSK. They know how to be nice. It's Dhoni's team. They're just gonna win that one.
I think also Kolkata for that. Like that, the leadership of Owen Morgan, he sets that ethos, that sort of culture in any side that he's involved in. I mean, we can say for certainty it's not going to be Royal Challengers or Sunrisers. Virat Kohli and David Warner don't really set up that sort of opinion. There's an argument for Delhi because, you know, Rishabh's quite a nice chap, but you got to remember that they've now got Steve Smith and also, you know, Ravi Ashwin. So, you know,
yeah, a couple of mancads.
Exactly, a couple of mancads. They're going to go right down that route.
That's what I want to see. All right, well, that is it for the very first Cricket Nerds podcast. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, then follow us on all social medias. We're at the Cricket Pod, and also Cricket Nerds Pod.
At Cricket Nerds Pod.
The Cricket Nerds Pod.
No. At Cricket Nerds Pod. Come on, James. It's really easy. I'll link it in the description.
Yeah, and on YouTube we are the Cricket Nerds.
Yeah, if you enjoyed it, give us a like. If you didn't enjoy it, give us a dislike. Tell us why we're wrong in the comments. Let's get that firing. And if you want to see more of this, please drop us a sub. We'd love to produce more content for you. Right,
bye.
Thanks very much. Thanks for listening. Bye.